to the Granby Journal. This is an episode of Herb's Table. I'm going to do something very simple today, that is boil eggs. I really like hard-boiled eggs, and when my wife and I travel, we like to make egg salad. So let's do something very fundamental and see how to best boil eggs. So the question is, what's the best technique for boiling eggs? You can read all kinds of things, and let's try a few and see if we can come to our own conclusion. What I'm going to do is a couple of things. In this pot, I've got a couple of eggs. I'm going to bring them to a boil. They're in cold water. Bring them to a boil and turn the heat off and leave them for 15 minutes. In this pot, I've got a whole bunch of eggs. I'm going to bring them to a boil and take them out at 1 minute intervals. So I've written numbers on each of these eggs. That one was 3 minutes, this one's 8 minutes. And we're going to take an egg out every minute for 12 or more minutes and up to 20 minutes and see what those eggs look like and see whether there's a best time if we just boil the water and leave them in water that's boiling. Now, I don't want you to boil the water vigorously once it comes to a boil, because there's the possibility of the eggs moving around and cracking in their shells. But let's bring the water to a boil, keep it at a simmering boil, and then we'll take the eggs out every minute. I'm going to put them into a bowl of ice water to quench them at these 1 minute intervals, and then we'll see what we get. In the meantime, let's turn the stove on for our eggs that we're going to boil and then leave in the water for 15 minutes. And we'll turn our stove on the other group that we're going to take out at 1 minute intervals. So since we don't want to watch the pot, we'll come back in a few minutes and see what's going on. Well, the old saw is a watch pot never boils, and obviously that's not true, but if you stand there and watch it, it'll probably drive you crazy. I've got this pot on, I've got it covered because that's going to decrease the time it takes for the water to boil, and this is getting very close right now. In fact, there's a few bubbles coming out. And that's part of the issue. When is the water actually boiling? When you're taking time to cook the egg. And I think it's kind of a slippery slope when you say the water's actually boiling. This is not quite there. You see steam is coming off the pot. And there's a few bubbles that are coming up now. I think that water is boiling. So let's turn it off, put the lid on, and since this is an electric stove, we've got to get it off of the burner surface, otherwise it's going to continue to heat. Meantime, let's start our starter for the 15 minutes. And we'll hit start, and it will count down for us. At the end of 15 minutes, we'll quench those in cold water. Meantime, we've got a whole pot of eggs here, covered by about an inch of water. You don't want the water to boil away in the process of actually cooking your eggs. I don't have them too packed in the pot so that they're going to bang against each other and crack, but this is obviously more water than in that pot, and it's taking longer to boil. You might say to me, why don't you put a lid on? And I would, except I couldn't find it, so we're doing it without the lid. And it will be soon. Okay, as you can see, this pot is starting to steam. There's bubbles that are coming up, primarily from air that's trapped inside these eggshells. So the water is not quite boiling yet. Very close. As soon as it starts, as soon as I think it starts, I'm going to set the time, and we will start taking eggs out at 1 minute intervals to see what's the best cooking time. Pretty close. All right, I'm going to set my timer on the microwave here for 12 minutes. It'll count down. We're going to take one out every minute, starting at 3 minutes. So when that counts down to 9, I'm going to take the 3-minute egg out. For those of you who like soft-boiled eggs, I don't happen to be partial to soft-boiled eggs, neither is my wife, but doesn't mean you don't like them. This really wouldn't work on a network cooking show because I don't think we could stand around for minutes at a time, but suffice it to say, we've got that pot counting down. It's now at 11 minutes, and this one is also at 11 minutes but started at 12. That one started at 15. At 9, we're going to take the first egg out of this one. I'm going to put my glasses on because otherwise I'm not going to be able to read the numbers very easily. All right, where is the 3? There it is. Okay. I know where it is now. All right, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A 3-minute egg comes out and goes into the cold water. And we're counting down toward the 8-minute time point, and we'll take the 4-minute egg out. All right, we're counting down 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there is our 4-minute egg. So in this pot, we're keeping the water boiling the whole time, as opposed to this other pot where we boiled it, took it off of the water, and we're going to let it sit for 15 minutes. Okay, we are about to get the 5-minute egg out of here. Let me find it. There it is, and I'm a few seconds late. And there's the 6. There it is. I'm turning the heat down just a little bit because the boiling's a little bit too vigorous. I don't want the eggs bouncing around. And we're going to take our 6-minute egg out. This is actually fun for me because for a big part of my career I was doing research, and this is kind of doing an experiment, so I find this to be interesting. I hope you do. We're counting down for our 7-minute egg now. Our 7-minute egg. Meanwhile, I'm going to put a little more ice in the And we have 4 minutes to go on our 15-minute eggs that are just sitting covered in the water that had been boiled. Okay, we're counting down to our 8-minute egg. Actually, I just noticed that I was lucky when I took the 6-minute egg out, because I had underlined the 6 and the 9, but I didn't really look at the egg carefully when I pulled that first one out. But the 6-minute egg was in fact marked 6, so that's good. And we've got our 9-minute egg. Wait on the 10. Okay. And that's the 10-minute egg. You might think, what the heck's he going to do with all those eggs? And I'm not altogether sure, but I think I'll probably make some deviled eggs out of some of these because I like those as well. Pretty simple to do. Cutting the eggs in half, take the yolks out, mash them, add some mayonnaise and some mustard and whatever else you want in terms of flavors. So you might put a little onion or shallot, you might add virtually any spice you want. I better pay attention here and take the 11-minute egg out. Got it. I've got two more in the pot, a 12-minute egg and then a 20-minute. Oh, that's our note that the 15-minute eggs are in long enough, so let's take those out, add those to the water, and they are marked 15, and we don't have any other 15-minute eggs, so we're not going to get them confused. So we're going to take our 12-minute egg out in just a few seconds, and then one more at 20 minutes, because if you boil eggs too long, there's our 20-minute guy, or rather our 12-minute guy, and let's set this for 8 more minutes. If you boil eggs too long, you set up reactions around the yolk, and they tend to turn green. You get a greenish ring that's a combination of iron and sulfur, which are reacting with one another, and it doesn't look good. Doesn't mean it doesn't taste okay, but it doesn't look good, and looks are a big part of what's appetizing and what isn't. So we're going to let this sit now for another 8 minutes, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, before we get going and see what our cooked eggs look like, let me show you how to tell the difference between a hard-boiled egg and a raw egg. I'm sure you probably know this already, but I'll take one of the eggs that we've hard-boiled. This is one of our 15-minute eggs, and let me show you what happens if you spin it on a hard surface. It's going to spin, and if we touch it, it stops. Let me do that again, see if I can do it better. Look at that. So it spins, and you touch it, and it stops. This is one of the same eggs, but a raw egg. Let's see about spinning it. Doesn't spin very well, and if we touch it, it wants to keep going. So you see it doesn't spin very well, and it keeps moving after we touch it. Doesn't spin well, touch it, and it keeps moving. So that's how to tell a raw egg from a hard-boiled egg if you happen to mix them up in your refrigerator or on the counter. But if you do happen to mix them up, from my perspective, you're just sort of not paying attention, but I guess it happens. Okay, let's now see what our 3-minute egg looks like. Now, I would never eat one of these. Let me find the 3-minute job. Now, you'd never cook it this way. That is, if you cooked a soft-boiled egg, you'd cook it, take it out of the water, and you'd eat it. You wouldn't put it into a cold bath like this. Okay, so here it is, our 3-minute egg. 3 minutes. We don't have egg cups, but I think the way you use them is you tap around the top. pick it off the top, and then you reach in and take out the goods. Let me get a plate. Okay, so if that were sitting in our cup, we now have our spoon, and lo and behold, we have a soft-boiled egg. So that's a 3-minute egg. All right, let's see what a 4-minute egg looks like. So this one is 4. Let's tap it around the top in the same way. And take the top off, sort of. Not as nicely as the 3-minute egg. Maybe I didn't tap it as well. And let's get in there. And still soft boiled, but a little bit harder. A little bit harder. So if you're squeamish about soft boiled eggs but don't want a hard boiled egg, then 4 minutes might be long enough. Let's see what 5 minutes looks like. Here's our 5-minute egg. Let's tap around. Take off the top. And this is set quite a bit more. So that one, I could almost eat that 5-minute egg. That doesn't look bad. Let's see. Here's the 6-minute egg that I took out luckily by chance. And because I wasn't paying attention to where the line was on the 6 and 9 minute. But let's see if we're still interested in a soft-boiled or medium-boiled egg kind of thing. What does 6 look like? Wow, that's starting to get set. It's not a hard-boiled egg, but that yolk is much more like a fried egg that's been cooked a little more than medium. Yeah, that one's definitely edible for me. That's a 6-minute egg. Let's try the 7. Okay, here's our 7-minute egg. I think this one is going to be actually pretty nice. Actually, these don't peel nearly as easily as the 3-minute egg, and I'm going to show you how to peel eggs in just a minute, or at least show you my method for peeling eggs and see what you think. Alright, so here's a 7-minute egg, and wow, that's getting toward hard boiled. 7 minutes. Looks pretty good. Alright, let me get another plate here. Let's see if I can show you my technique for peeling eggs. Here's our 8-minute egg. Peeling eggs can be pretty frustrating. One thing I would suggest to you, if you're going to make hard-boiled eggs, you don't want fresh eggs. You want older eggs, because older eggs have more air between the coagulated white protein and that thin film that's underneath the shell of the egg. And what you want to do is you crack the egg is get that film and use it to help you remove the shell. Now let me show you what I think is a great technique. So let's tap all around on this egg. I think this 8-minute one will be enough. And then we're going to roll the egg. Not real hard. I mean, obviously I could squish it into the tabletop here. Now we're going to get it started, get the shell started. Try and get a nice spot here. Get it started and see whether we can't get a long peel. Look at that. Isn't that kind of nice? And we have removed the shell almost without any hassle. Let's just wash that off because we want to compare the various times here. That's our 8-minute egg. Where's our 9? Here's our 9-minute. We're going to do the same thing. Tap the shell all around. Then we're going to roll it gently. That's going to help separate that membrane from the coagulated white protein. And it's probably best to start at the blunt end. So if we start at the blunt end and we get it going, and those of you who make hard-boiled eggs, you know that sometimes they're just impossible to peel, and sometimes they peel like a dream, and it probably relates to how old the eggs are. You know that eggs can be weeks to months old when you buy them in the store. So very different than what you get at one of our local farms where you want to use the eggs for other reasons. So notice how this is just peeling right off, a nice long continuous peel, and voila! Isn't that cool? Any rate, I think so. So that was the 8-minute, that's the 9-minute. Let's get the 10. I'm going to do the 10, 11, and 12 the same way, then, and the 15s and the 20. Then we're going to cut them and see what we've got. Okay, let's see what the results are from our various cooking times. We've got an 8-minute egg, 9, 10, 11, 12, 2 that we cooked 15 minutes, boiling, then taking it off the fire and just leaving it in the covered pot, and 1 egg that we cooked for 20 minutes. All right, let's see what we have. Let's cut them as if we were making hard-boiled eggs for egg salad. So this is the 8-minute egg, and you can see that the yolk is really not cooked enough. And the 9-minute egg, you can see it's a little better, but not quite. And the 10-minute egg is maybe a little better yet, but still not quite completely cooked. And the 11-minute egg, we've got the yolk just about completely cooked through and creamy looking. That's the 11-minute egg. And let's get the 12. And these are the eggs that were boiled for that period of time. And this is the 12-minute egg, and you can see the yolks are cooked perfectly and look just exactly the way you'd like to have them, at least exactly the way I'd like to have them. So that's the 12-minute egg. Let's try our two that we cooked for 15 minutes off the flame. And that yolk is beautiful. So that was brought to a boil, left in the hot water in a covered pan, a total time of 15 minutes. Looks great. Let's look at the other one just to be positive, and it looks equally terrific. So that's the 15-minute. So that's 12 minutes of continuous boiling, made the yolks look great, and 15 minutes in a covered pan off the fire after being brought to a boil. And this is our 20-minute egg, and let's cut it. And what have we got? Actually looks pretty good. There's just the faintest greenish color around the outside, which would suggest this reaction of iron and sulfur. The yolks are clearly cooked enough, but 20 minutes, way more than you need to cook to make a hard-boiled egg. If you're going to cook it continuously, 12 minutes boiling in a pan where the water is about 1 inch over the eggs, or bring your eggs to a boil in a pan with, again, the water 1 inch over the eggs. Once it boils, take it off the fire, cover the pot, let it stand for 15 minutes, and you also have perfectly cooked eggs. So there you are. That's how you make hard-boiled eggs, medium-boiled eggs, and soft-boiled eggs. And I'm going to use a bunch of these and make some goodies. And here we have some deviled eggs, the end product of our boiling. Nothing more than some mashed yolks with mayonnaise and mustard, salt, pepper, and a little smoky paprika on the top. And they are creamy and delicious. So remember, doesn't make very much difference as long as you boil the eggs at least 10 minutes, 10, 11, 12, maybe even up to 20. You're going to get lovely yolks and nicely set whites. If you don't want to keep the stove on, boil the eggs, take them off the fire, keep them covered in the hot water for 15 minutes at least, and you'll also get lovely hard-boiled eggs. See you next time on Herb's Table.
I wonder if they'd like it better if I put a little cinnamon and allspice on the pumpkin.